Okay. Well, hello everybody. Joy and I are very excited to conduct this Q&A with Eric Buarque, whose uncanny resemblance to Bruce Willis led him to work on many films and commercials with him as a stand-in and body double, and the first being Live Free or Die Hard. Welcome, and thank you, Eric, for your time and for sharing your experiences working with one of the most celebrated movie stars and actors in the world.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Joy, you could start.
Okay. How did you get the job being Bruce's stand-in body double?
Oh man, I could talk to you for hours about how long it took me to get in with Bruce. It took me several years. I started back in 98 or 99. I had some headshots made up and just kind of mailed them out and was kind of hoping for the best, but took me a long time, a lot of persistence, a lot of hard work. Pissed a few people off along the way as far as kind of badgering them about, if there was an opportunity or whatever for me. But it took me a few years, but I never gave up. I want to say about 6 or 7 years it took me to finally land a job with him.
And which one was that? That was, I guess, Live Free or Die Hard, correct?
Yes, that was Live Free or Die Hard. I had a couple of close calls with a couple of Bruce's movies, and I'll back it up to the year 2000. I had an audition for the film Unbreakable. So I was so excited because that was like the first, the first little bit of interest when I sent some headshots out and got a phone call to come up and audition. And when I went for the audition, I thought that they just wanted to look at me. I felt pretty confident that based on what, you know, so many people had told me along the way about my resemblance to him. So I felt pretty confident that I would get the stand-in photo double job. But when I got there, it kind of didn't go the way I expected. So they ended up picking somebody else. So that was kind of like the first taste of an audition for one of his films, and also my first taste of rejection. So that was 2000. And then about 4 years later, I got another phone call from a agency out in LA for a film called Hostage that Bruce was going to be working on. And so I sent some photos out, and I mean, they immediately were interested. And so I flew out to LA on my own dime and ended up, I mean, it's a long story, but I'm not sure how much time we have. But I got out there to meet with the casting director, and I can't remember the name of that's been 21 years ago now. But can't remember the casting director's name or the office that I went out to visit. But anyway, when I got into town, the guy that I was dealing with, he had set up a day for us to go down and visit their production office. So I got into town. I called the guy and asked, said, "Hey, I'm in LA. Let's hook up. Can you take me over to the studio so I can meet these people?" And he kind of got a little agitated with me and kind of told me, you don't want to piss those people off or you won't get the job. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I ended up hung the phone up with this guy, and I, just being persistent, because I was on this journey for years. I mean, and I had gotten, again, close once with the film Unbreakable, and this was my second time around for one of his movies. Didn't have to audition, just was going over there so they could take a look at me and see if I resemble him or not.
Mhm.
So anyway, long story short, um, I pretty much made up my mind. I'm going to go over there by myself. I don't need this guy. So
Mhm.
I went on ahead. This was before GPS and all that good stuff that we have now. And, you know, kind of had to make my way over a couple blocks. I had to stop and, hey, can you tell me where, you know, Paramount Studios is? Actually, it was called Raleigh Studios,
Mhm.
which was right across the street from Paramount. So I found my way over to this place and um, got out of the car, walked over to their guard shack check-in station, and asked the guy. I said, "Hey, I'm here to see so and so for the film on Hostage." And he said, "Hang on just a second, and I'll call up and see if they want to meet with you." So sure enough, he called up, and while I was standing there waiting for an answer from the guy from the guard, I had a couple people that were working on a set, and they saw me standing there, and they started yelling, "Hey Bruce! Hey Bruce!" So I started thinking to myself, "You're going to get in here today." So
Mhm.
sure enough, he said, "Yeah, they want you to come on up." And so he told me, you know, go in the building, catch the elevator up to the second floor, and office will be down on your left hand side. So I did, and when I got to the office, I walked in and introduced myself to like the second AD that happened to be working in the office. And I saw a picture of Bruce Willis and my 8x10 that I mailed out to them. So that was pretty cool. So this guy, he gets up and he takes me back to meet the director. Nice guy. I can't remember his name. Again, it's been 20 years, 20 plus years. And so anyway, that day happened to be my birthday. And he and I were out in the hallway talking about a schedule and how many days we would film in this location and a couple of weeks in Simi Valley. And so I'm just so excited that I felt like I finally connected, you know, and was going to get my opportunity. And right when we were kind of in the middle of a conversation, I heard the elevator like ding, and somebody got off the elevator. And I looked, and Bruce Willis showed up that day. So
Oh.
I caught his profile when he walked off the elevator, and I mean, I was in shock. And so was the guy that I was there talking with, the first AD or second AD. And we both kind of looked at each other. I mean, just he didn't know what to say, and neither did I. So Bruce comes walking toward us, and he looked at me and he stuck his hand out. We shook hands, and hey, how you doing? You know, real cool, and just kind of walked right on by us and went back to meet with the director. So anyway, this guy gives me the lowdown on the schedule, and he told me, listen, go back to your hotel, get some rest, call me in the morning, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. And so the next day I called him, and he tells me, he says, listen, I really hate to tell you this, but the director that you met, he's going to go with his guy. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, I don't understand it. He doesn't look a thing like Bruce Willis. So my feelings were hurt again. And I, went to the airport, flew back home, and I just pretty much kind of felt like, you know what, I've gotten so close to, getting my big break with him, but the door keeps closing, and maybe I'll just hang this dream up that I've had for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so I did. I went home, feelings hurt, got back to work, and but then Bruce was really on people's minds back then because he was doing a lot of film. I mean, he was putting films out one after another, and that's when he was at the height of his career. And so this is, like I said, about 2004. So fast forward, and again, I carried that hurt for uh, about 2 years, and after that incident, and but everywhere I'd go, people would stop me. Man, you know who you look like? You know, anybody ever told you who you look like?
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, if I could collected a dime from each person, I'd probably be rich by now,
Did
because
you
it was
did
so
you
much. So,
did you get women coming up to you thinking you were Bruce? They could
I
be
mean,
very
it
flirtatious.
was women, men. I mean, just constant, you know. And I met my wife at the airport. We used to work over at BWI together, and we worked for a company called U.S. Airways. And so it's funny because the whole moonlighting thing, and we'll get to that down, later on. But
Mhm.
I didn't watch too much moonlighting, but she was in love with Bruce Willis
Oh
from
wow.
Moonlighting, watching
That's
him
funny.
Oh
in
my.
Moonlighting. So when I first met her, I mean, people, the kind of the buzz went around the station that I was at, and about, man, this guy looks like Willis. So it caught her attention,
Mhm.
and then eventually, we ended up dating, and eventually got married. But um, kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with this, but it was just it was a tough road for me, and back to going back home after the hostage movie
Mhm.
fell through for me. It was just nonstop. I mean, everywhere I'd go, to the mall, to the wherever, people would constantly stop me, and so it kind of started fanning the flame again. Like,
Mhm.
I know I got something, and but I just don't know how to get to it. And I never had an agent. I never. People would ask from time to time, because I'm gonna go back just for a minute. I had these 8x10s made up. There was a guy that lived next door to me at the time that worked for the government, and he was their big time photographer that worked for the veterans of foreign wars. So he was around the presidents, the big dignitaries, all the people that were somebody. He filmed everybody, in DC. And so anyway, he and I became friends, and he's like, listen, man, why don't you come on down to my studio, and we'll take some headshots, and we'll let the government pay for it. And I was like, well, that works for me, because I didn't have any money at the time. So that was perfect. So anyway, those headshots that I had made up, guy by the name of Emerson Sanders, still a good friend of mine today. Those are the shots that I mailed out to different casting agencies, and I got my start on HBO's The Wire,
Mhm.
and that was a show that was filmed in Baltimore City, and so I got my first background acting job. I did a bunch of those jobs before I actually got in with Bruce. So being on those sets of The Wire, HBO's Veep with Julia Louis Dreyfus,
Mhm.
Ladder 49 I worked on as an extra, John Travolta, Robert Patrick, Joaquin Phoenix. So I would meet all these different people on all these different sets, and they would always come up to me and said, man, you don't belong here. You belong in Hollywood working with Bruce Willis. So I was always trying to, ask, well, can you connect me, or do you know anybody? Do you have a phone number I could get from you? Somebody that I could, get the inside scoop, get the connection. And I got close one time with one guy. I'm not going to mention any names. But this was another taste of rejection, because I was really close with this, with this guy that was going to connect me to somebody well known, that they were going to try to connect me to Bruce's camp. But some things fell through. I didn't get that, didn't get that connection. And so it was a lot of this kind of this up and down stuff for me. I mean, I had a lot of highs because I met people. And I mean, John Travolta was telling me how much I look like Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
I mean, they worked in Pulp Fiction together, Robert Patrick, he worked on one of the Die Hard films. He was saying, this dude looks like Bruce Willis. So, I met a lot of cool people, but it's funny in this business. If you don't have anything to offer people, sometimes you're not going to get a connection. And it's unfortunate, but that's kind of how it works in the business. So if you have something to offer them, they're your friend. But if not, a lot of times they don't want anything to do with you. So, but I have met a bunch of amazing people and worked with a lot of good people along the way. So not everybody's like that, but I did run into a few people that were. So anyway, it took me a few years to finally make that connection. I never gave up. And the interesting thing was it's all about timing too. At the time I was a single father. I had 3 kids at the time. And I was raising my son and my middle child, my daughter. And, I went out to LA I was young. I really didn't have a plan. I just wanted to get in with Bruce and work, but I also had responsibility back home. So I didn't quite have the balance that I really needed at the time. So anyway, 2 years went by, and I was always, pick up the Hollywood Reporter. I don't know if you remember that magazine.
It's still
So,
around.
yeah, I would pick up anything I could, started getting on the internet and, trying to find out what movie Bruce Willis was going to work on next. And so I got the scoop that they were doing a 4th Die Hard, which is this one. So I immediately emailed a couple of pictures, and the cool thing was the first couple of weeks was right here in my backyard in Maryland. And I sent some pictures in. Within a half an hour I got a phone call. Where are you located? So I said, I'm right around the corner. Well, can you come over for a what they call a go see, where they want you to come over and take a look at you, see if you same measurements, if you have a resemblance. Now this was for a stand-in job, so you don't have to look exactly like who it is you're trying to stand in for, but it helps. And if you resemble your actor more so, then that kind of opens more doors for you as far as maybe photo doubling for him. So anyway, one of the guys that showed up on this, actually 2 of the guys that showed up that were part of the Die Hard crew, those 2 guys were part of that hostage crew. And when I ran into them that day, I went for the go see. They looked at me and they said, "Dude, we never forgot you, man. We never forgot you." And so I was still not 100% confident that I was going to get the job until, well, there was a couple guys that showed up, a couple bald-headed guys. And I'm like, oh man, I got some competition. So, which is good, One guy was too tall, so I'm looking at him like, you're not going to make it. And then the other guy, I don't remember what he looked like, but I just felt like this might be my chance. So they sent me to wardrobe. And so I go in and they fit me with everything Bruce is going to wear in that movie. He had a real cool leather jacket, like a tan leather jacket. And, just the shirt and the pants. I keep looking that way, but what he's got on in this photo here. But so I go in, and the wardrobe lady, she's fitting me, and I just was talking to her like I'm nervous. I don't know if I'm going to get the job. And she looked at me and she said, "Sweetheart, this is your job. You got it, hands down." So that was like one of the most amazing feelings to
Mhm.
finally get through the door. But to get my big break with Die Hard was better than getting it with the film Hostage.
Mhm.
So, because I was
Absolutely.
always a big fan of Bruce, I know we could talk about that, but the Die Hard movies, I loved them. I mean, so he was my favorite actor. So to be able to get that opportunity
Yeah.
to finally get my foot in the door with him was amazing. And the first time I saw Bruce out on the set, I mean, I'm in his police car, the John McClane unmarked police car. They're lining up a shot, and me and another guy that was standing in for the actor Justin Long.
Mhm.
So I'll never forget, this SUV pulls up, this black SUV, and I'm looking through the windshield, and Bruce jumped out, and I was like, "He's here! Bruce is here!" Um, but yeah, he got out and he came over and he kind of looked through the windshield at me and was like, "All right," kind of gave me like a little looking, kind of, "All right, looking good." So that was kind of my first, you know, taste of actually being with him. And then, I worked with him. Um, that's a whole nother story, but just
Mhm.
just to be working with him downtown Baltimore City, the place was going bananas, and I mean, it was so much fun. It was so exciting, and every shot that Bruce was in, I did more standing in for him then when I was with him way back in 2006 for that movie. Um, so I had to do everything he was going to do. So they did an odd. We did a rehearsal, and I mean, we're downtown Baltimore City. I mean, the place is going crazy. Everybody's there to see Bruce Willis. All the street corners were packed with people, and the news, and people were hanging out of their office buildings and
Yeah. Mhm.
taking. It was so exciting. But I'll never forget one of the scenes I had to stand in for. I don't know if you remember the movie, but in Bruce's car, he's kind of at an intersection, and this truck runs a red light and smacks into a car in front of his, and
Mhm.
so they had me jump out of the car, jump up on the hood of this car, and then on top of the roof, and I'm standing there, and again, the place is it's the excitement's in the air, and they're lining up the shots, and it, I mean, it just this rush came over me, like, man, all this hard work, it took you all these years of all these close calls, and you finally made it, and it was just such a thrill to be able to work with him, and be in that position. And my mom was my biggest fan, um, and she had passed away in 2004. So that was like heavy on the forefront of my mind, is how proud she would have been to see me finally, because she saw me
Mhm.
do all these lookalike gigs and all this background extra work, and she carry a picture around with her in every store she go to. "Hey, this is my son. He's a Bruce Willis lookalike," and blah blah. She was just so proud, and but I just never forget. I was thinking, how proud, if she was looking down on me, what a moment that was for me. So anyway, that was my first big break with Bruce. I mean, or my big break with him, to finally work with him on Live Free or Die Hard, and I'm just thankful I got the opportunity. So
All right. What was the job of a stand-in body double versus a stunt double? Although you were not his stunt double, you did perform some light stunts. What were they? I know you mentioned one of them with the car just now.
Yeah, I mean that was more of a like a stand-in, doing the stand-in work. And again, that's for lighting and doing the rehearsals, and it was always it's beneficial, like, I mean, with my resemblance to him, that he would sit back and watch me in the monitor,
Mm.
and it would give him an idea of what the scene would look like. Um, Having me run through a rehearsal with the other actors or whatever, and
Mhm.
um, toward the end of Bruce's career, I mean, I mean, again, I was just grateful to be with him. But to be able to, it turned into more, opportunities to photo double for him, and just, it was less work that he had to do. And I was grateful to any way that I could help him, um, lighten his load, and take, if it was pressure off of him, or just make it easier for him. If they
Mhm.
could use me, I was there. So I did a lot of photo double work for him toward the end, and then that's where some of the minor stunts came in. Um, and it was kind of cool because there was one film that we did really, that was my last film with him, was Detective Night. And Jack Kilmer, which is Val Kilmer's son,
Mhm.
was part of the cast. And so he was one of the bad guys in this film. And so I got to mix it up with him. I'm kind of hanging on the back of an ambulance, speeding down the road, and I open the doors and go in, and he and I start mixing it up. And so that was a cool opportunity for me to do a stunt with for
Mhm.
Bruce and for the film. And I did some other stuff, shooting guns, or running in between a bus that's kind of crossing behind it. Just some driving scenes. It's just minor stuff. I didn't do any of the heavy stuff like the Bruce's stunt guy Stewart did. So that was his job, and then I had
Mhm.
my job. So, and we had a team around Bruce. We all had our own job. That we would perform and do the best we could to make it easy for him. So.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. I think we can skip the question. Were you a fan of his before? So you definitely answered that one, um, and you answered the question. What do people say stopping you on the street, or do people stop you on the street that you look like Bruce? So we're gonna go to this question. You talked about your did you talk about your first meeting with Bruce in terms of how he treated you and what he said to you when you first met him?
Well, I mean, he didn't say much, but I know that as time went on, I mean, he saw that he could trust me. I always tried to do my best for him. Um, again, to make it easier on him, and just try to be my best Bruce for him.
Mhm.
I mean, it turned, like I said, it was a dream for me for years to work with him, and then I got the opportunity. You know, I never imagined that I would not only travel to different states, but I mean, I traveled around the world. I've been to Spain, I've been to Rome, I've been to Mexico. Um, couple Spain and Mexico, they sent me to work to finish up a couple of commercials that
Mhm.
were Bruce Willis commercials. So I was just honored to be able to do what I did. And I mean, I got to fly with him a couple of times on his private jet. And I mean, the whole time I flew, I was just like, had a big smile pasted on my face. I couldn't believe that, I went from where I started to where
Mhm.
it ended up. And so he knew he could trust me. He knew I
Mhm.
always had his back with whatever he needed. So,
And did your relationship with Bruce develop more? Did you guys ever hang out or anything?
I mean, I've had dinner with him, and I flew with him, but I also was respectful and toward him and his space.
Mhm.
And I mean, if he wanted to shoot the breeze with me, we did. If not, I wouldn't bother him. And because I mean, he had a lot on his mind as far as whatever film or commercial we were working on. I mean, to remember his lines or whatever it is he was preparing for. But I would never, you know, um, go over and badger him about anything or so. He knew where I had my place, he had his, and if he invited me into that space, then I was
Mhm.
more than happy to go over and hang with him. So,
What would you say was your most memorable filming experience you had with him?
oh my gosh, I got a couple of them. I mean, again, standing on top of his police car downtown Baltimore, and that was
Mhm.
probably the highlight. Another one is when we did Once Upon a Time in Venice. I was able to work start to finish on that movie, and um, that was that was one of the cool things. The other cool thing was for the first time seeing my name in the credits of one of his films. I mean, that was another um, real exciting thing for me. Uh, I got a lot of good memories, but those are probably some of the maybe the three or four things that really
Mhm.
that stand out to me the most.
And
Yeah.
also, just wanted to ask, like, how was his personality? Was he very quiet and serious a lot, or did he joke around?
It's funny because I've been watching Moonlighting, and some of those some of those his mannerisms. He still had the same sense of humor. This the just the same vibe, and me spending so much time with him, I'll never forget it. But it's cool to see that that's really who he was. I
Mhm.
mean, what you saw in Moonlight, a lot of that, his good sense of humor, and sarcastic. I mean, he just
Can you give
funny
us an
guy.
example? Can you give us an example of something that's Moonlighting-esque or David Addison-esque?
I mean,
Did he
I
sing?
just some things that I mean, just I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've been watching. I got to catch up on a lot of it, but
Mhm.
I've just seen some of the same facial expressions, some of the same.
Cool.
Not that he said the same, jokes or whatever, but it's kind of bringing it back to me, like
Mhm.
when I watch a rerun of Moonlight and go, that reminds me of this time we were in on this set or whatever. So
Mhm.
he's such a talented guy. I mean, I would just watch him. That was another thing that was amazing is just watch him. When the director would holler out action. I mean, it was a home run every time. You know,
So,
he's just so good at what he did, and just so cool to sit back and watch.
so what would you say? What did you learn about filmmaking working with him?
I mean, like I said, he's so talented. I mean, it didn't take but one, two, three takes, and I mean, but I know that took years of practice and years of him doing it, over and over again. That he was so seasoned, and so great at what he did. And I mean, the whole filmmaking process, like I said, me starting out as an extra, I'm telling you, those people work their butts off. You know, everybody from the PAs,
Yeah.
directors, the grips, they all work hard. I don't know. I would be standing there for a shot. And that's the thing. Like I said, when I first started working for Bruce, it was a lot of standing in. And I remember standing there. You know, these guys are lighting the shot and then they forget about you. You know, and I'm still standing there, man. My legs at sometimes were killing me, and I'm thinking, man, this stuff sucks. Like,
That's why they
I
call it
mean,
a stand-in. You're
yeah, I mean,
standing.
but people that don't have a clue as to how they make a movie, you know, they
Yes.
see the polished, you know, the
Hmm.
final
Yeah.
piece, and they have no clue at all the hard work
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
hours and time just to shoot a 10-second piece or whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
it takes a lot of people working together,
Mhm.
and when you see it on the big screen, then it's nice and polished, and that's the finished product. So
Well, did you seek any advice about him about the business, since he's been seasoned and doing it for a long time, and you were just getting in?
yeah, I mean, I learned by being with him. I didn't go up and ask a bunch of questions, ask him a bunch of questions. I just sat back and took notes as far as, you know, how to be the best Bruce I could be. How to,
Mhm.
you know, so that I got on the job training. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I was able to work with him for hours and hours and hours,
Mhm.
and take after take, just learn
Mhm.
and watch him and watch his movements, his, you know, just his mannerisms, the way he walked and the way he talked and the way he moved, and it would freak people out because sometimes, you know, I would get my call time or my day to be on set was a day before him, you know, and, you know, just to get me in there and again, do some standing in if they were setting up some shots or whatever. And it would freak a lot of people out because when I'd get into whatever wardrobe he had on in that film or commercial, it was all business. And I'd get that look,
Mhm.
that Bruce Willis look, and step into character, and it freaks some people out because a lot of people ended up coming over to, you know, and, you know, would come up to me and was like, "Man, you had me so scared. I thought Bruce Willis he wasn't supposed to be here till tomorrow," and so it just freaked a lot of people out. But that
Yeah.
was from spending all that time with him and learning and watching him how he did
Mhm.
things, watching his movies over the years, and I mean,
Wow.
he's the best. So
So now that he's retired, have you stayed in contact with him? Or
I'll keep in touch with his best friend, and I'll shoot him a text every now and then.
Mhm.
His manager, best friend, just to kind of see how Bruce is doing, see how Steven's his name, see how Steven's doing, and
Mhm.
um, just to kind of check in and see how things are going. It really, you know, I was with him when he was at the height of his career, and I mean, he was sharp, and you know, and then we really didn't realize what was going on, but I mean, I took it personally because I mean, he was family to me.
Mhm.
You know, he was my movie family, and you know, the guys that I worked with, the team, they were my movie family, and so, you know, if it hurt me to see him struggling a little bit or whatever, and but again, none of us really knew what was going on with
Mhm.
him. Um, but you know, he always had his back. Let me tell you, let me say it to you like that. So whatever he needed from me, I always wanted to do the best I could for him. And if that meant him going to sit down and chill and rest and, relax for a little while, put the load on me. I'll take it. So.
No, that's great, because he considered you family. He trusted you, and that's why you stayed around as long as you did.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, when I first got in with Bruce Willis, that was Live Free or Die Hard. I didn't get to work that whole film. Again, I didn't. When I first got my big break, I was still raising my kids, but Bruce Willis was going to keep me with him. I mean, he was these production guys. I got some phone calls from some of the big shots, and they were like, dude, he wants you back here. He wants you back here in LA. And I mean, again, back then he was knocking a lot of big time movies out, and so I lost some years with him. And going back to the timing part of things, yes, it was a dream of mine, but the timing was off for me to stay with him. And so I chose to, it bothered me for years, but I had to get my kids through school. So I went back home, got them through school, got them situated. And, by the grace of God, I was able, this is a miracle, it really is, because I not only got one shot with him, I actually got another chance with him, which was when I reconnected with him in 2015. And that doesn't happen. I mean, like I said, I had an opportunity with him way back, and to be able to reconnect and then have them welcome me back, I mean, but then like I said, it ended up turning into 13 movies.
Yeah.
And traveling around the world, and the timing was right. So I was extremely fortunate, but I feel like God had, gave me that opportunity, and gave me that, fulfilled something that was inside of me.
Yeah, it's perfect timing with him. You think you need it now, but it happens to me too. Something I really want now, and it doesn't happen. But when it does, it was perfect. Now let's talk about Moonlighting, because you said you didn't watch the show, but now you're watching it, catching up on it, and your wife's a big fan. Maybe she's filling you in on the episode.
Well,
So what are your thoughts about the show now? Because, back then we all know him as a comedic and romantic leading man, not an action hero.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of new. I got several episodes to catch up on. One of my favorites, I've watched 3 of them so far, but one of my favorites is, of course, the one that my buddy Jade Roberts worked on, that played Rocky. And
Symphony and Knocked Flat.
I tell you, him and Sybil, they were perfect together. Their chemistry, was amazing. And I was asking my wife, did they end up getting together?
Fans still speculate.
Yeah, because on screen, or I don't know what had them off, but I'm just saying that, because after I'm watching these episodes, they were just perfect together. I'm like, man, will you just grab her and kiss her already? You know what I mean? Come on, man. But I'm definitely gonna be binging and catching up, and but like I said, I see, spending all those years with him, I see some of that, that attitude that he had in that show, on film and commercial, that I was able to work with him on. So yeah, they were perfect together.
Okay. So yeah, there's a lot. Well, us fans, we like to think that seasons 1, 2, and 3 are the best. So, and you have to watch.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
Did you watch the pilot? The show was introduced.
I watched the pilot, but like I said, that was pretty long. What that was was that a
It's like a
couple
2 hour
hours?
movie. It was a movie.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
premiered as a movie. Yes.
Yeah, I did watch it, and I need to go back and rewatch it. But I can circle back with you, and I'll probably be pretty knowledgeable about that show. You know, give me a little time to go back
Okay.
and watch. And
Okay. I'm
but
sure
I'll
your
tell
wife can help you.
yeah, it's funny because again, when I don't know why I didn't watch it. I mean, I remember seeing Bruce in that Seagram's commercial. You remember that one?
Yes, the wine coolers.
Seagram's wine
Yeah.
coolers. Yeah.
So I always love that commercial. So I'm thinking this guy is cool, man. I mean, he's a good looking cat. You know, he can dance. He's singing. Um, and then I guess for some reason I don't know how I missed when it first came out, but I mean, Die Hard is what caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really when the first Die Hard. I mean, that was like, oh my gosh, this guy is amazing. So I became a huge fan after that.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to do that because Sybil Shepherd got pregnant, and his schedule was freed up enough to be able to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to do Die Hard.
Okay, see, I didn't know that about him. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that's a good thing. Good thing for her and him, because I mean, the rest is history. So,
Yeah.
It is.
but it's kind of cool because way back, and I'm thinking of that Seagram's wine cooler commercial, and I had heard a song or two on the radio back in the '80s with Bruce in it, and so my wife, us working for the airline, we got to fly for free. So one of my birthday presents, this is way back before I got in with Bruce. Again, I felt like I had the resemblance, but just didn't know how to connect. But she took me, we flew up to New York to BB King's, to the Blues Club.
The club.
And we both got to see Bruce. I still got my ticket stub with he was with his band. This was right after 9/11, so it was like 2001. After things kind of calmed down. But that was so amazing to see him up close and see him sing. So I've seen him perform on stage with his band. And again, that was a couple years before I got in with. I was hoping when I was standing in line she was girlfriend at the time, but we were in line and somebody looked at me, man, this guy looks like Bruce Willis. So I was hoping one of Bruce's people would kind of spot me out of the crowd, because that was a small club. It wasn't that bad.
I've been there once. Yeah.
It's a cool little spot. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
A lot of good acts. So he had Ivan Neville, one of the Neville brothers, that was on the bill with him. And so, it wasn't my time. Nobody noticed or whatever, but to watch him play, and I play drums. So I thought that would have been cool had Bruce gotten on the harmonica and we had a guitar player and let me drum a little bit with. That would have been kind of cool. So, but then a few years later, when I did get in with him, he's on Broadway.
Misery?
Misery. So I got the backstage treatment. Me and my wife did then. So I got to see him perform on Broadway, and I got to see him perform in his music career that he had.
Well, I'm curious, what was it like for your wife to meet him? I mean, being that she was in love with him as David Addison.
I'd say, easy, baby. Now, look, I'm right here next to you now. Come on now. Don't get too carried away. No, but it was cool. It was really neat for her to that was her first time meeting him, because we were backstage. Bruce he let his hair grow out. Did you ever get to see the play? Misery?
I didn't see it, but I know a good friend of ours did.
Yeah, so he let his hair, grow out, and we were getting ready to film a couple of commercials, and I'm like, oh man, Bruce, please shave your head. Because they let it grow out kind of long. But
Hmm.
it was all part of the look
Yeah,
for
the
Misery.
character. Yeah.
Yeah. So which is cool. I mean, I whatever he did, I had to do it. So but the play was awesome, and she was pretty starstruck when we went backstage, and you got a little hug from him, and we got a nice little photo together,
That's
and
nice.
so good memories, and I'm glad that I got to see him, you know, on Broadway doing something a little different,
Hmm.
and then again back at when he's got a lot of talent, a lot of talent. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when he was discovered per se, I mean, he was so different back then in the 80s in terms of what a leading man was or what a television character was back then. So yeah, he was an original. He's an original. He is
he
an
is
original.
he
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So now you're an actor also, obviously. You were a stunt, I'm not a stunt, but is a body double stand-in. So so you continue to act in films. What are you working on? Anything in particular that you'd like to tell us about? And
I mean, I've done a few. Well, I haven't done much since we he called it quits. I've got some stuff in the works. Hope maybe one day a documentary. Um, and then there's been some opportunity as far they haven't come to pass yet, but maybe some different roles with a couple other side projects that some
mm-hmm.
buddies I did some I met Jade. I don't know if he told you, but I met him on a film called The Starving Games, and it was a spoof of the Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
So they brought in a Stallone lookalike. Did you guys see The Expendables?
And I didn't, but I know what you're talking about in terms of your little project, and you have Jason Stratham also a lookalike too.
Yeah, is Jason Statham, and his
Statham,
name is
Statham.
his
Yeah.
name is Jason Stanley, and he's
Uh-huh.
very he's real close to the his resemblance to the real Statham.
Also.
So,
Hmm.
but that's how we all met. It was a Chuck Norris, a Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can Google YouTube
Hmm.
the expendable scene we were in, and it was a silly spoof movie, but we had a
Hmm.
good time. So me, Jade, and Jason, and the Arnold guy, Joe,
Hmm.
we ended up becoming friends, and we've done a couple little side projects. We did a couple of commercials for a mall in Texas. We've done a bunch of lookalike gigs. Jade and I did a gig in front of like 5,000 people.
Hmm.
As a Stallone and Willis lookalike, and we've become Jade and I. We're almost like brothers. I mean, we've been, that's been 11, 12 years ago. But that's how I met those guys. But what I'm trying to say is that I've done some other things other than working with Bruce, but
Hmm.
I'm hoping we'll get something. Somebody might take notice, or want to bring us in for a commercial. We're
Hmm.
available. Best
Okay.
best lookalikes around.
Okay.
And I've worked with my guy, so
Okay. So as an actor and with your actor friends, what is your dream project? If you had the opportunity to film something, what would it be?
I mean, I guess I was kind of fortunate because I got up to the top of the mountain,
Hmm.
and I really feel fulfilled and satisfied. Like God really, and He fulfilled that dream for me. So So if nothing ever happens to me again as far as the acting business, I'm satisfied because I was on the
Yes.
top of the mountain
Hmm.
with Bruce for a while, and but if I did get something, um, what would it be? I mean, I always played a cop, so I like cop roles. I like stuff like that. So I mean, I'm available. If anybody's listening to this and you need a Willis lookalike cop, call me. So, but yeah, those that I don't know, something like that. I've again, anytime I work with Bruce, most of the time he was a cop. So that's pretty much the role that I was playing. So
Hmm. Well, I'm an independent producer, so if there's anything that comes up, I will let you know.
please, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. These are all the questions that we received from our Moonlighting 21 group, our Facebook group. So we really appreciate the time and you shared with us your memories. And we wish you good luck, continued good luck in your endeavors.
And I'll circle back with you, and I really appreciate that. I'm gonna watch some more of this
Okay.
Moonlighting.
Well, maybe
And
you and your wife will want to join our Facebook group. I think you're in our group, but your
yeah,
wife
I'm
will
in
have
it.
to join.
Yeah, I have to get her in there, and then get her, where she can start being a part of what's going on. So, but I certainly appreciate both of you for having
Thank
me,
you.
and
Thank you.
thank you for letting me share my journey. So,
Thank you. No,
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
alrighty,
much, Eric.
take
Okay.
care now.
Take care of
Bye.
yourself. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.